Hey, folks, it's Dave here in Studio B, and this is going to be my official wrap up of my 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneer project. And this is the most uncomfortable shirt I own, but it's the only orange Buccaneer shirt I got. And it's just so stiff. It just, I don't know what it's made out of or where I got it from, but it is pretty terrible. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to go over all the scores and some of the stats and just how everything stacked up. Because what I did is I started playing in momentum football, and I finished the season, and everything felt like it ran hot. I mean, points and turnovers and everything. It just felt like it ran really hot. So then I said, well, let me play it in game-winning drive. So then I played in game-winning drive. I said, well, if I did it in game-winning drive, then I need to do it in fast drive football. So I did it in fast drive football. Then I said, let me take a look at a quick play game like Mike Sealock 2-minute drill. So that played really quick in Mike Sealock 2-minute drill. And then this afternoon, while I was compiling stats, I pulled out Downey final score football and ran the 76 Bucs in final score football. So I have now 5 games. I have 3 drive-by-drive games and 2 fast quick score games, so to speak, to check out here and see how we did. At some point, I might do the big boys. I'll break out the full play games. But since they do take a few hours, it's something that might be a longer term project. So anyway, all right, now before I get to the stats, I do want to point out one thing. I only played one playthrough. Okay, so I took the Buccaneers schedule and played through it, and that was it. So I only have one game from each of these 5 games as a sample size. So I didn't play it 5 or 6 times. It's only one playthrough. So when you play one game, anything can happen. So this is not a real accurate, I don't know what you want to call real accurate presentation for these 5 games I'm about to show you, because again, dice rolls can be crazy, funny things can happen, and I suppose if I played all these games 10 times, I might get some different results. In fact, I know I'd get different results. So all that being said, this was just a fun project, and I want to go over how everything shook out in my playthrough. Again, my one playthrough through everything. So here we go. So let me see if I can call up my PowerPoint presentation here. Okay. Oh, we have some people in the chat room already. Look at that sweet creamsicle uniform. Yes, I am. And I was just chatting with her on the layout, and I lost him. I don't know if he got kidnapped and got pulled into a back alley or something, but he found his phone, so that's good. Yes, they do need to go back. I thought Brady was going to wear these. I thought Brady was going back to the creamsicles, and he never wore it. That would have been great. One of my favorite players in my favorite uniform, but that never happened. So anyway, all right. And Charles says, have you seen the new enhanced cards for Fast Drive? Yes, that's what I use. Well, I think that's what I used. Yeah, because all the things were the same, but it just had the players on there. Okay. Now, I didn't do individual stats because I did drive-by-drive games. But anyway, let's get to what we have here. Okay, so in the first game, they played Houston on the road. Now, keep in mind, they lost every game. So I don't need to put if they won or lost under Tampa Bay. They lost every game. So in the first game, they went to Houston and they lost 20-0. Well, how did the 5 games work out that I played? Well, game-winning drive was a 16-3 loss. Momentum football was a 17-10 loss. Fast drive football was a 27-13 loss. Mike Sealock was a 24-12 loss. And Downey final score was 22-3. And I put the check mark on the Downey final score. I think that got closer than anybody else to the actual score. So that's kind of how week 1 went down. It was a loss straight across the board for the Buccaneers. All right, so let's go to week 2. So it was week 2 against the Chargers. And this was another shutout, 23-0. This time it was at home. Game-winning drive, I actually won. I won the game 15-14. So I'm 1-1 with game-winning drive. In momentum football, it was a tough loss, but I almost won that one. It was 31-30 with momentum football, but I lost it. Okay. And then in fast drive football, I actually tied. We got a 13-13 tie in fast drive football. So game-winning drive and fast drive were really close in their scores. They really were. The Mike Sealock game was 20-7 loss, and the Downey final score game was 34-12. So I think the Mike Sealock came closer in this week with the 20-7 score. Yeah, I need to get a 42 Ricky belt. This is Martin, this guy named Martin, and it was on sale, and I forget where I got it, but it's the most uncomfortable shirt I've ever worn. I only wear it here on when I'm doing Buccaneer stuff here on the channel. And Bernard stops by. Good to see you, Bernard. So that's what happened in week 2. I actually picked up a win and a tie in a couple of the games here. So let's go to week 3. So week 3 was the Buffalo Bills. And we lost, I say we, the Buccaneers. It was a 14-9 loss for the Buccaneers. Game-winning drive, almost nailed it. It was 14-10 loss in game-winning drive. That was real close. Momentum football wasn't even close. That was 34-13. Fast drive football, it was in the ballpark, 24-13. Mike Seelock, 2-minute drill in the ballpark, 21-17. And Downey final score, real close, 19-16, real close. But again, game-winning drive, off by 1 point. That's the closest I came with any of the scores. So again, I got a win, actually. That was a win for Mike Seelock. 2-minute drill. So I'm 1-2 with game-winning drive and 1-2 with Mike Seelock at this point. As Carlito stops by, thanks for coming by. So let's move on to the next week, and it is going to be the Baltimore Colts. Now this was a smoke show. The Buccaneers got smoked 42-17. Game-winning drive, though, again, look at that, 45-17 loss. Almost nailed it again. Momentum football, somewhat close, 32-26. That was a loss. Fast drive football, same thing, pretty close, 38-7. Mike Seelock, 2-minute drill, okay, in the ballpark at 38-10. And Downey final score, that was real close too, at 42-5. I actually got a safety in that game, 42-5. So that was pretty close. So the game-winning drive and the Downey final score were probably the two closest here in this week against the Colts. Up next was the Bengals. Now, you can see I had some success against the Bengals as we lost. Game-winning drive wasn't even close, 43-20. That wasn't even close. But I got a win in overtime with momentum football. It was 26-20. Buccaneers got a win in overtime. In fast drive football, they almost nailed it. It was 19-8. It was a loss, so they came probably the closest. And Mike Seelock, 2-minute drill, 20-17. Yeah, fair. That was a win, by the way. So I won in momentum football, and I won in the 2-minute drill. And then Downey's final score game, 30-6. It's a 24-point loss compared to a 21-point loss. Fairly close, but I'm going to give the edge to fast drive football here against the Bengals. So I picked up a win. So with the Mike Seelock game, I'm actually 2-3. I'm not doing too bad. A Steeler fan stops by. Thanks for coming by. So let's go on to the next week. The next week, it was the Seattle Seahawks, a game that they should have won. In fact, even in my games here, there's a couple that they should have won. Now, game-winning drive was a big 34-27 loss. It was only by 7. It was close, but they kind of coughed it up at the end. Momentum was close, 23-20. That was a field goal game that could have gone either way. Fast drive football, Seattle had this one by 12. And Mike Seelock drill, Seattle crushed them by 20 points. And there was another big win over there on Downey final score. So I'm going to give it to momentum football, actually. Probably getting it the closest with 23-20. So now, the next week, and this is when it starts to get rough for the Buccaneers. The Dolphins, it was 23-20 in real life. And I guess they should have won that game in real life, but the offense was really that bad. Game-winning drive wasn't really close, 33-7. Momentum football, everything ran hot, 37-27. Fast drive football, again, the Dolphins took off. They crushed them 42-13. Mike Seelock, 2-minute drill, probably the closest I got with 24-10. And the Downey final score was off the chart at 45-3. Downey's final score was not very friendly to the 76 Buccaneers. It was nearly impossible to win a game with the 76 Buccaneers with final score. So that's where I stand here. Again, 5 losses across the board. Then we have the Chiefs. This was a 28-19 game. And boy, it was really close. Some of the scores here were close. 28-10 for game-winning drive and a loss. Momentum football, not even close, 37-10. Fast drive football, fairly close with the 30-9 loss. Mike Seelock almost nailed it, though, 27-21 compared to 28-19 and a loss. So I was 2-6 with the Seelock 2-minute drill. And Downey final score was close, too, 20-15. So all these games were fairly close with this one here. Of the final score of 28-19. So again, 5 losses. This was probably the best week as far as getting close to the final score of any of the weeks that I had playing this project. Then we had the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos beat them up pretty good, 48-13 at Mile High. Game-winning drive, it was a rush score. It was 21-12. I'm surprised that it was that close in game-winning drive, but it was. Momentum probably took the closest one there that week, 42-21. That was fairly close. Fast drive football, boy, they were stingy with the points, 24-7 with fast drive football. Mike Seelock 2-minute drill, again, stingy with the points, 23-10. Downing final score was getting there. If each team tacked on another touchdown, we would have been close, but at 33-2, yeah, they didn't quite make it either. So I got to give Momentum credit for this week. 42-21 is as close as I could get. But again, all losses across the board. Then we go to the Jets game. Now it gets interesting. Game-winning drive. I got to win. The final score was 34-0 Jets. The Jets were a bad team, almost as bad as the Buccaneers. And they won it 14-0. They actually shut out the Jets in New York, 14-0 here using game-winning drive. That was a fun game. Momentum football was a win too, 17-14 in overtime. If you can believe it, Dave Green actually kicked a field goal. And more on that later. But he won it in overtime, 17-14. Fast drive football, it was a 25-15 loss. And Mike Seelock 2-minute drill, it was a 23-13 loss. And then Downey final score 10-9. So Downey final score does not like these two teams. I think they are both rolling off. I think they're rolling off of like column H and I, and they both rolled. But the Buccaneers had a chance to win this, and they rolled poorly on their last roll, but they could have won it in final score. So that's where we stand right now. So I got a couple of wins here in game-winning drive and momentum football and the Mike Seelock game. I have a pair of wins for the Buccaneers so far. All right, moving on to the next week on the schedule. It was the Cleveland Browns coming into Tampa Bay. It was a 24-7 win for the Brownies in real life, and game-winning drive almost nailed it again, 27-6. It was really close, 27-6 in a loss. Momentum football ran a little high, 31-27. Fast drive football hit the Buccaneers right on, but ran a little high for the Browns in a 35-7 loss. Mike Seelock, well, 21-10. I guess that's pretty close to 24-7, so not too bad. And then Downey final score, yeah, rolled poorly for the Buccaneers. They don't like the Buccaneers that much in final score, so 33-3 was the best that we could do. But a couple of close ones here. I mean, game-winning drive momentum in fast drive. Actually, all 4 out of the 5 were fairly close in this one. It was hard to pull out a winner, but I went with 27-6. That was as close as we're going to get here on this week. And then we had the Oakland Raiders. And that was a 49-16 game. And this is when it gets tough to, when you talk to developers, they're like, it's really hard when you get a really good team and a really bad team like this, how to card them. But anyway, game-winning drive, 42-3. Oakland crushed them. Momentum football was 35-19. Fast drive football, I won. If you can believe it, the Buccaneers beat Oakland. Oakland went up, I think they went up 9-0. And then they went flat. They just couldn't do anything. And Tampa Bay just chipped away with a touchdown here, a field goal there, and hung on for the win 16-12. So, again, anything can happen in these games. And that was some really weird dice rolls. It really was. But I pulled out a win. So that was my first win with fast drive football. So they're 1-10-1. Didn't think it'd be against Oakland, but it was. And it gets better, folks. The 2-minute drill, Mike Seelock, 28-14 loss. And then Downey final score had them getting smoked 57-3. Again, the final score game was really tough on the Buccaneers. And David C. stops by. Yep, I'm just kind of recapping the project here, having some fun with it, as I like to do. So they went from Oakland into Pittsburgh, and you'd think it would get worse. Well, game-winning drive was a 42-0 loss in real life. Game-winning drive had them losing 35-13. Momentum football, I don't know what it is about momentum football, but I'm 2-0. The Buccaneers are 2-0 and 76 against the Steelers in momentum football. This time it was a better score, 20-14 they won. Pittsburgh went flat, just punt, and they couldn't do anything. And so it was a Buccaneer win. I also won in fast drive football. So fast drive football, the favorites went cold. Oakland and Pittsburgh went totally cold in fast drive football. Pittsburgh scored the first 7 points and couldn't do anything. Tampa Bay, let me see. I think I got the notes on this game over here for this one here in fast drive against Pittsburgh. They actually hit three for three with extra points. I mean, that was like ridiculous. They weren't kicking very well, and they hit 3 for 3 with the extra points, and they won 21-7, stunning the Steelers. So it's not only momentum football that I can beat the Steelers in. Also, there's another game. Seahawks game had them with a 23-0 loss, and Donnie almost nailed it, 42-6 instead of 42-0. It's really fun when you see some of these games, how close you almost come to the exact score. Sometimes that's why we play these games, to see how close we do get. So 42-0 against the Steelers. Then we had the final game of the regular season, and it was the New England Patriots, and it was a loss across the board. 31-14 was the actual score. And as you can see, momentum was the closest, actually, at 28-16. Fast Drive Football didn't like the Buccaneers that day at 41-3, and neither did Downey. Final score 55-6. That was nuts. And Doug starts by says he likes that momentum football play. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that one second. I'm going to wrap up kind of all these games here when we get to the other stats. So I finished up. You can see they were 0-14 in real life. Game-winning drive, I was 2-12. Momentum, I was actually 3-11 with momentum football. I was 2-11-1 in fast drive. In the Mike Seelock game, I was 2-12. And in Downey final score, which is a quick play game as well, I was 0-14. I almost won one. I should have beat the Jets. That's the only game I really had a chance at winning, was the Jets game, because you're constantly rolling off a low column, which you're lucky to get a 7 or 3, for points in a quarter. Most of the time it was zeros. And unless you get the big game or a bad game roll, that's the only way you could really pull something out kind of crazy. So that was that. All right, so let's move on and take a look at some of the team stats here. So their actual points for were 125. It was very low. And the points against were 412. And I busted all those. I mean, you can see, Donnie's was the closest here. The final score, I got 132, but that's still a little bit more. Everybody else ran a little high. Fast Drive Football was the next closest with 167. Well, game-winning drive 163, then Fast Drive 167. But even the Mike Seelock game, I ran high. I ran 54 points higher. And look at momentum football. I thought momentum football ran hot, and I guess it did. If my math is correct, I did 282 points in momentum football, which that was just really high. But I look at my scores, and it was like 10, 30, 13, 26, 20, 20, 27, 10, 21, 14, 27, 19, 20. So I was ringing up, 20 points a game. So I guess in 14 games, that would get me up to 282 points for. So I wasn't getting shut out all that much. So momentum, when I thought momentum football ran hot, it kind of does. It's fun, but as you can see, it does run kind of hot with the points. As far as points against, again, nobody was really close. Momentum football was close with 399. Everybody else was far below the 412, except for final score from Donnie, which ran it up out of the park, as you can see at 453. So that's kind of how the final stats went for scores. Now, if I break down touchdowns, they actually got 15 touchdowns during that season. And you see momentum, 32 touchdowns. That's why I almost doubled in points. Momentum ran really hot. I got a lot of touchdowns in momentum football. Again, if my math is correct, and I think it was. So there was a couple games that got 3 touchdowns, and I don't think they ever did that in real life. Game-winning drive and fast drive football were right in the ballpark with 18 and 19. So that was the actual stats for touchdowns. I wanted to take a look at kicking, okay, because I felt as though the kicking was atrocious when I played this, and I felt like I couldn't hit a field goal or an extra point to save my life. The actual stats for field goals were 47%, and the extra points, which were kicked from the 2-yard line back in the day, it was less than 80%. So the Buccaneers missed over 20% of their extra points, which is terrible. And so when I looked at it, game-winning drive nailed the field goal with 47%, and they were a little bit low on the extra points with 72.2. Momentum football, I almost hit 80% of my field goals. Again, momentum football runs hot, even though, it could have been the dice, because I know a lot of these games I was rolling 5s and 6s on the red die, and that means no good because this guy can't. I think it's 11-34 for a field goal. The extra points were nearly right on with momentum at 80. Fast drive football, I was a little low with everything. The field goals were a little bit low, and the extra points were a little bit low as well. And the other two games, again, are just quick play games. And then I think the final stat here I have is the final stats for offense. This is offense only. So they had 20 interceptions and 17 fumbles. Now that's fumbles lost. Okay. They had fumbles that they recovered, but I think I went and I, to the best of my knowledge, it was 20 interceptions thrown and 17 fumbles lost. The three games were really close, 19-15, 21-18, 15-19. They were all fairly close with the turnovers there. So I was very, very happy about that. And I think that is going to be the end of the presentation. So that's how it went. With my 76 Buccaneers replay, again, using 5 different games, 2 quick play games and 3 drive-by-drive games. I have not used anything else yet. And I thought about pulling out the big guns, and doing the longer play games, the second season, the Solitaire Pro Football, maybe even doing something with Strat or Action PC. But I need a break. If you listen to the Digital to Dice show this week, we talked about playing as the favorite and playing as the underdog. I've had enough playing as the underdog. I'm going to wrap up my Spiders baseball probably in the next couple of weeks so I can get off of that. And I need to stop playing some of the better teams. I know you guys like watching me play the bad teams and get beat up, and it's kind of fun, but I need to play some better teams because that's when these games really shine, is when you get better teams playing each other. That's when it's really fun. That's when you can complete that pass or score that goal or hit that shot or whatever it is. And when you're playing the bad teams, they never come through fire, and it's just kind of a bummer. So I do plan on playing some of the better teams now, whether it's offline or online, either way. But you take your lumps, you play a project like this, you get beat up, and then you're like, okay, I need to go play some better teams. I need to play some teams that are going to do some good things for me. So anyway, so that is that. So again, that's a little wrap up by 76 Buccaneer Project Hi Tommy ball game. Stopping by. Thanks for coming by. And that's kind of how it shaked out. So if you decide to take on this, let me know. If you played the 76 Buccaneers and you play all 14 games, let me know what game it is and how you made out. Whether you want to play a quick play final score game or a medium play game, a drive by drive, or you want to play the whole enchilada and play the play by play game. Let me know how you make out. I probably will at some point pull out a game and play the 76 Bucks against somebody, maybe like the Colts or the Raiders or something, and just see how bad they get beat up in a full play game. But I don't think I'll be doing the full season like that. It just wears you down, because you start pulling for these guys. You do. You're like, come on, Bucks, and you're rolling the dice and you're getting disappointed. So it's kind of a bummer. So I don't know how much more I'm going to be doing that. So anyway, and Charles says he ran Super Bowl and it was KC 130-28. Yeah, that should be a good game this weekend. It should be. And Doug says, going to play any more hockey balls? Yes. Yep. Now that I got the table free in Studio A, because that's where I did this project, was over here in Studio A. I'm going to set up the hockey bones. I need to play a couple games, get back into the swing of it, and then I'll play it back here on the channel. But hockey bones will be back here very shortly, I hope. So anyway, I'm Dave. That was the wrap up there. And again, let me know if any of you guys out here play that season. Let me know how you make out. I like to kind of compare results. And again, it was only one playthrough. Okay, so I just played each game once with each engine. So it's not a good representation of the game engine. Okay, because I only did the one game. So this was a fun thing that I did, and that's all it was. So maybe someday, I'll roll, a bunch of these games and play them 10 times and see how it goes. But for now, I just wanted to run the whole season. So anyway, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.